Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, however you're watching, wherever you're watching, however you're listening, wherever you're listening. It's the Bet Online Salute to Troy podcast, and we got 2/3 of the tripod here today. It's the coach and the Madman. Madman, how are you doing on this first official fall Monday where it hits 4:55 and the sun is going down?
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. Great to be here. Great to see you. Definitely, fall is upon us. It's interesting. It's when it goes dark, so much earlier, you're just sort of more incentivized to stay inside. So it becomes kind of the indoor hobbies now start emerging for the next couple of months until you have some more sunshine during the week. But one of those hobbies, Coach, one of those passions is nothing better than talking Trojan ball with you, and so much to talk about, even though we're on a bye week and coming off, I think, a wonderfully engaging show that we had on Saturday. I think lots to unpack with a little bit of emotion removed from it over the past 36 hours. So always great to see you, my friend. Hope all is well.
You could tell it got dark earlier. Madman shaved.
Yeah.
You shaved. And you're not even going anywhere. You're on leave right now.
Yeah, I'm on, but the thing is, the baby doesn't like the beard, man. She loves to touch my face and, all of that. And I don't think I think the baby is fine with the beard. I think it's the mama who's talking through the baby about the beard. That's kind of what's happening right now, So that's what's taking place.
Tell her it grows on her.
Yeah,
it grows on her.
Exactly.
Because my wife hated it. My wife hated it at first, and then one day I shaved. She was like, "You cut your beard? Why'd you cut your beard? What made you do that?" I was like, "I don't know. I just wanted something." And she was like, "You cut your beard?" I'm like, "All right, well, I'll grow it back."
Grow it back. There you go.
I'll grow it back. So yeah, it grows on them. It grows on them. Anyway, story about time change. So I was in the store yesterday.
Yep.
And I happened to walk past the front door and I saw that it was dark. I was like, dang, it's already 8:00. And I looked, it was only 6:30. I was like, oh yeah, time change got me. But I don't get to enjoy the extra hour because on our job site, they're starting earlier. So I have to wake up at 3:15 now to get to the job site for 4:30.
Oh my God.
So
what time do you sleep to wake up at 3:15?
I'm going to bed after our show.
Okay. Yeah.
So we'll be done at 8. I'll probably be asleep 8:45, 9:00.
Love it. Yeah.
And I'll be up at 3:15 and
wow,
getting ready to go to Hollywood.
It's not a lot of sleep, but it's 6.5 hours, which is kind of right on the line of okay. But the fact that you get so much night sleep, I feel is very, very healthy, actually, to go kind of 8:30 to 3 in the morning. I mean, it's sort of the hours. That's sort of the sleep hours of every top Fortune 500 CEO, frankly.
Rich people wake up early. So I'm onto something here. Even on the weekend, I wake up at 5:30 by myself.
And that's considered oh my God, sleeping in. Yeah, what are you gonna do? The whole day's gone. You're up at 5:30, Coach.
Oh, if I wake up at 8:00, say I went to a party or something and had a good time, and I wake up at 8:00 or 9:00, I wake up, I'm the whole day's gone. I don't.
The whole day. Oh my God.
The whole day is gone.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, it is. But technically, you're supposed to get between 8 and 6 hours of sleep. So I'm still getting a healthy amount.
You're in the window. You're in the window. Absolutely.
Yeah. So not killing myself. There was a time when I was coaching when I was averaging 3.5, 4 hours of sleep.
Ah man, that's rough. That's rough.
Yep. Let's jump into this thing, man. So. We were on the defense bus all spring. We even jumped on the defense bus in the fall before the season started. And we got on this dude and we just roped him and we thought he was a quack. Nobody liked him. We had nothing nice to say about him. And he was right. How does Paul Feinbaum find the nut? They say the blind squirrel finds at least one nut, and he found the nut. I don't know how he got this right. I was so hoping he would have got this wrong so he could have had that stupid look on his face like he normally does. But no, he got it right. He said Lincoln Riley's a bad coach and doesn't know how to build programs and he should be fired. And it's time for the Trojans to move on and this and that. And this is going to be the worst season that you guys will ever see. And I don't know what's going on. Maybe he's the script writer. He wrote the script. But Paul got it right. And, I mean, I didn't really think about it until you mentioned it. I was like, wow, Paul Feinbaum is right. Like, where do we go from here? And how do we do it? And how do we shut Paul Feinbaum up? But he got it right. He hit the nail right on the head, and he got it, drove it in the wood with one shot. So, you got any thoughts on our man Paul?
Yeah, Coach. I mean, it's crazy, right? I mean, where he came from in the offseason. And the one thing I'll say is there's very much of an SEC bias with Paul Feinbaum. I don't think there's any question about that. I think he's held a grudge against Lincoln Riley for not coming to the SEC with OU. And so he's been, on the attack with Lincoln Riley, and whether he intentionally this was the right take or accidentally he just sort of got lucky into this take. Certainly the things that he said in the offseason are at this particular point in time ringing true. Things can change moving forward, but as it stands right now, Paul Feinbaum's take has been pretty accurate, which seemed extremely far-fetched in the offseason. And even more far-fetched, Coach, I'll tell you, after the LSU game. I mean, and we were all sort of looking for Paul. I mean, folks on social media, sort of our USC super users on Twitter are like, where's Feinbaum? I mean, everyone was looking for Feinbaum. And to sort of see it sort of play out now, I mean, it's really unfortunate. I mean, the two kind of seminal figures here, Coach, in the SEC that I find really interesting. One is Feinbaum, who, is sort of seemingly correct for now. The other is Brian Kelly. After that press conference where he was sort of smashing the table, can you imagine here, Coach? LSU's got 2 losses right now. They're right on the fringe, right? They're sort of 14, 15, 16. They're playing Bama this week. Let's say they lose that game and it's a 3rd loss, and that keeps them out of the playoff. The loss to USC is going to keep LSU out of the playoff. USC is 1-5, right, in 1-score games. The one was LSU. Can you imagine Brian Kelly saying the team that couldn't win a close game all year, we lost to that team in a close game and it cost us a playoff berth. So just some really interesting storylines here, Coach, even externally as we go into the SEC, in terms of how this USC season is playing out. And it just goes to show you, just when you think you never know in this sport of college football, and it's why we sort of love it so much. Unfortunately, we're on the receiving end of a lot of adversity and pain right now. But just found it kind of interesting about Feinbaum and Brian Kelly. Who would have thought both of those coaches, between Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley, year 3, losing Heisman quarterbacks, fan bases wanting more. Who would have thought that the loser of that game was in significantly a better position, in year 3. I mean, if you had that on your bingo card at the start of the year, go to Vegas. It's like the Monopoly, go to jail, go directly to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go directly to Vegas. Drop what you're doing and go put some money on the roulette table and the blackjack table, because my goodness, how it has played out this season, particularly since week 1.
Don't even waste your gas. Just go play the lotto. Just go to 7-Eleven and play the lotto. Like, it's right there. Like, you have the winning numbers. No, it's crazy because it kind of sucks, because we try to not be like the big networks and we try to stay true, and we got a little bit excited. Now we look like all those guys because now we made a complete 180, right? And it's unfortunate, but God dang. For LSU, and what's bad about LSU's loss? The bad part about LSU's loss is that Texas A&M got smoked by South Carolina last weekend. So it's now like, now you have 2 bad losses. But it's really interesting because the thing that gets me about the whole thing with this, and maybe Paul being right, and maybe we could transition to this next segment. I'm kind of freelancing here, and forgive me, but we'll get on track. The crazy part about it is Navy is 8-1. Army is 8-0. Navy doesn't have dudes. Army doesn't have dudes. Navy and Army legit have people who are going to make sure we're allowed to do this podcast and not get our heads chopped off. You know what I mean? They don't have dudes, and a lot of people's like, you don't have the players. You don't have the players. It comes a point in time where the talent doesn't matter. If you put me if you put all the best players on one team and they're not in it for the team and they're not in it for themselves and they're only in it for, they're only in it for themselves and they have no way of collaborating and becoming a team and gelling. And we talked about gelling with all this transfer portal stuff. And I think it's starting to show. And there's no culture. I'm always going to go back to culture. It doesn't matter who you have. At the end of the day, those Joes are going to get beat by the Jimmies, right? So I see a lot of people say they don't have the guys. Even my brother says SC just doesn't have the guys. SC just doesn't have the guys. Well, I doubt Indiana has the guys.
Right.
Indiana doesn't have the guys, but Indiana's undefeated. Illinois, I'll even use Illinois as an example. Yeah. I know they're not undefeated, but I think they just lost their third game.
Yep.
A close one, but that makes them 5-3 right now.
Something like that. It's 5-3 or 6-4, something like that. Yep.
They're going to have a solid season. They might be a 10 winner this year. They don't have the guys, but they have a solid team. Because Brett went to culture rehab with Nick Saban, you know what I mean? But they got a culture. They have some things that matter. They have things that really matter. I think the biggest issue is there's no culture, and I'm always going to harp on no type of culture. There's no culture, man, and it's starting to show, and you start to see, because at the end of the day, and I'll make this real quick, I'll throw it to you. At the end of the day, it should be when we fall, we won't fall again. You see what SC, when we fall, we're just going to stay down and just keep getting kicked in the gut. Unless we run into somebody we could bully, i.e., Wisconsin, they can't even Rutgers, but they can't bully Maryland. They can't bully Minnesota. I don't even know if they'll be able to bully Nebraska, but we'll see. But they just don't have that, and I think it has a lot to do with culture. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, Coach. I think you're spot on with the culture, and if you look at the state of the program right now, they're lost and they're leaderless. And I think part of the lack of culture, there's been a lot of interesting conversation here over the past 36 hours that I think we need to sort of address. Is one, again, Lincoln's post-game comments, Coach, it just is concerning. And, he's sort of dying on this horse of, hey, we didn't get our butts kicked. We're really close. And then he talked, it was a very bizarre statement he made where it's, hey, like, I get the winning, is sort of what people care about, but there's like the rest of the job, the 99.9% of the job is also other things, and we're really close. And it just was so bizarre in terms of that statement. Like, the connotation there was, this is a holistic job and winning is only sort of a piece of it. There's all of these other pieces. I mean, it's speaking like an individual who's lost. I think he's genuinely lost right now, because here's the thing, Coach, and there's a lot to unpack here. When you keep coming to every press conference after a loss and say, we were one play away or we were really close, the natural question becomes, okay, so what have you done to rectify that one play?
Yep.
What is the cause of that one play? Where did you fix that one play? And the fact that he's coming back week after week and just saying we're one play away, it means he doesn't know the one play. He doesn't know the cause of the one play. He doesn't know where to fix the one play. And so he is completely lost right now from sort of a strategic perspective in that particular regard. And then when you continue to sort of make excuses that we're really close, it creates a weird culture of entitlement, of complacency within your locker room, because we've said it a lot, Coach, over the years, right? Where it's the great teams, the players lead, the good teams, the coaches lead. And especially when you're a younger team, you want to sort of take the cue from your head coach. And if your head coach is kind of consistently making excuses, it's very hard to sort of build a culture of accountability. So I just find it so bizarre, this sort of one play away business. Like, what other athlete or what other sport is that okay? Like, when was the last time we talked about LeBron James being one play away, right? Like in the NBA, remember those early years with LeBron, with the Cavs, and 2011 with Miami? Like, did anyone say he was one play away from winning a championship? No, they said he wasn't clutch. When you're one play away, the other way to define that is you're not clutch. You don't have the clutch gene, right? I mean, do we tell Patrick Mahomes, like, the year he loses, he was one play away? Or Aaron Judge, Coach, was just one at bat away from having the Yankees win the World Series. Like, it doesn't work like that in any other sport with any other superstar. And so why is this one play away philosophy okay here? That's the thing that's absolutely so bizarre about this whole situation. And I think it goes back, Coach, to just a lack of identity. What are the core programmatic pillars that he's leaning into? Mark Sanchez was on a podcast, over the last day or so, and he was kind of talking about how when Kiff and when Sark and when Orgeron were the respective coaches of USC, and obviously because they were Pete disciples and this was a Pete philosophy, it was all about owning LA. It was USC just owns LA, and it was sort of in context to obviously the crosstown rival UCLA, but he was saying it in that it was such a holistic mantra where it wasn't even about like owning LA on the field. It wasn't even about just winning the victory belt. It was about, in Mark Sanchez's words, it was like getting the best girls in LA, getting the best table at the clubs in LA. Like, even if you're going to the gas station and pumping gas, it's like you get the best pump and you're at the front of the line in LA. It was this whole mentality of owning LA. And related to that, Coach, is I think the things that I've been saying in the offseason is you want to know when USC's back? Build a Trojan wall. Build a Trojan wall of Southern California. That's when USC's back, because to truly understand the culture and ethos of USC, you have to understand the culture and ethos of LA and what it means to really own this city as a major brand. We just saw it here earlier a couple days ago with the Dodgers, and you saw the parade and you saw what it sort of meant to the city. So I think they're just lost right now and leaderless with this lack of identity. And the last thing I'll say, Coach, before passing it over to you, I thought Cam Fountain's mom, has been on Twitter the last couple of days. Mama Fountain, so much wisdom. My God, so much wisdom in what she's had to say on Twitter over the past couple of days. And, she said, look, I'm going to refrain from any criticism of Lincoln Riley because that's the coach. And, I want to focus on positivity, which I completely respect. She said some other things that was so interesting and so fascinating, where she talked about how some of the 2025 recruits, she's had to kind of talk some of these parents off of the ledge, and they're really looking for the things that they're trying to identify is how much longer, what's the level of stability with this coaching staff, and how are they going to be able to develop their sons at the position groups that they're interested in. And I thought what was fascinating, Coach, and what she said is what they look for is what are the accolades and the individual awards of the players in front of them, and how many of those accolades have they achieved in the last 4 years? And again, it comes down to sort of that magical 4-year number, Coach, which is why I've always said, Lincoln gets until next year to really have kind of the whole body of work before you sort of, ultimately put the litmus test on him. But, just really interesting conversation over the course of the last 24 to 36 hours here, Coach, between culture, between recruiting, between just Lincoln Riley's comments himself. It really does seem like it's a program that's absolutely lost in a way that it feels different than 21, if you recall. That 4-8 21 season, everybody was so down, and then we got Lincoln, right, in 21. And so December 1st, it just was boom. Everything kind of turned around. I would argue that if this team finishes 5-7 or 6-6, I think a 5-7, 6-6 in 2024, when you're sort of hamstrung financially with Lincoln Riley and potentially recruits exiting, I think is in a worse place to be than in a 4-8 in 2021 when you cleaned house with Orgeron and you cleaned house with Dante and you thought that Lincoln Riley was going to show up. So I think a lot to unpack here, Coach, off the field, but a lot of interesting conversation amongst the Trojan family the last 24 hours.
21 was Helton, though, right?
21 was Helton. Yeah, what did I say?
Orgeron.
I'm sorry. I meant to say Helton after he got fired after the Stanford game, and then Dante was the interim. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure, like, all right, good deal. You threw me off for a little bit, like.
No, my bad. Hey, I'm just, sometimes, Coach, these we fired so many coaches here over the years that you gotta keep it in track.
Do you think so? Here's the problem with hiring coaches. And I don't think very many people understands the process to hiring coaches. So the way it goes with hiring coaches is that these universities hire a search firm, right? They hire a search firm.
Right.
The search firm says, "What are you looking for?" And they go, "We're looking for this, 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 and this." They put their information in. The database pops up. Boom, 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 boom. These coaches match what you're looking for. This coach matches this. This coach matches all this. Here's where you're going. I really think that when you do that, it's a risk. Because I don't think Lincoln Riley fits this culture. You know what I mean? And I can't really speak on Oklahoma's culture because I don't know very much about Oklahoma's culture. Like, I know there's Barry Switzer, and I know that's all they have there. Like, it's Sooners or the Cowboys. Like, you know what I mean? It's either Norman or Stillwater. There's no pro teams there. They have the basketball team, but there's no pro football team there. There's no pro baseball team there. They just have the basketball team. And that's in Oklahoma City. And I don't know exactly how far that is from Norman or Stillwater, but all they have is Oklahoma. Right. And so I think the culture is just automatic. They're like, everybody's going to love us. Right now, he's in a market to where, what have you done for me lately? And if you don't produce, we're not going to support you. Like, we know how to get you out, and an empty Coliseum gets you out. It gets you put out of get you out of a job. And we're going to see homecoming is their next game. It's not going to look like a traditional homecoming, right?
No. And it's a weird time to 1 p.m. You know,
Yeah.
it's going to be a little rough. Yeah.
Homecoming is their next game. And so now you're under the pressure of the Dodgers just won a championship, right? The Galaxy are pretty good this year. The Kings are starting to make a couple of moves and starting to make their way back up to the top. We don't really know how far away the Lakers are, but the Lakers are competitive and they're in the news, right? The Sparks aren't that good right now, but there was a time when the Sparks were good. If you get 3 pro teams rolling and you're not rolling, more pressure is put on you. They're going to go to see those games instead. I prefer to go to the typical LA person. It's not a bad thing. It's just the privilege that we have. I'm not going to pay for SC. I prefer to go pay for a concert. Right. The money I'm gonna put on, I'm gonna go pay for a concert. Like, I can watch that.
Well, Coach, I mean, we saw it that Friday, right? I mean, we saw it game 1 of the World Series, right? I mean, it was the Lakers were playing. The Lakers were hosting the Suns. You obviously had game 1 of the World Series, the Freeman Grand Slam. You know, it was Mater Dei Bosco. There was a concert at Intuit Dome. There was a concert at the Forum. You know, there was so much going on that day, and you saw where the attendance was with USC. So I think you're absolutely right there, Coach. The one thing I'll say is I think Lincoln, it's foreign to him. I think the LA market and the LA culture is foreign to him because you got to remember, he was born in West Texas. So he understands Texas-Oklahoma culture, right? Like, and he in many ways was sort of the prodigal son. I think it's the reason why he was sort of the chosen one with Bob Stoops, where it's like he's young, he's so innovative, and he's from the Texoma region. And so he's going to get it in this very unique way. Lincoln doesn't really have any like LA ties. He's an implant, right? And so it's very different in that regard. And I think it's something, Coach, that sort of filters down in other ways. Remember the 22 Victory Bell game, if you recall, Coach. You remember the press that week, and you remember Caleb was being interviewed that week, and he was like, "Yeah, I've been told this is a really big game." You know, and you remember that statement, and then they interviewed DTR on the other side of town. He's like, I want to rip those guys' heads off, you know, because he was there for 4 years. And you saw the juxtaposition there where DTR knew the importance of that game. Caleb, again, as an implant, was like, oh, I've heard this is sort of an important game. And so, you know, but we'll just kind of treat it like any other game. We'll be professional. We'll be ready to go. We know it'll be very intense. It's sort of a battle of the city and so on and so forth. But it wasn't sort of ingrained. And I think that's kind of what Sanchez was talking about earlier. Right. And I think that's what we're talking about here as well. And part of that, Coach, I'll be honest with you, in all fairness, I don't know if that's all Lincoln's fault either. Because think about this, right? The last great period of USC football of the mid-2000s, we don't have any more SC guys. There's not that many more SC guys that are that connected and passionate about the university. You know, Pete's back now, you know, in terms of teaching a course, but he very intentionally, for the previous 15 years, kind of kept a very cautious distance with USC after everything that played out. Even when he was asked sort of publicly over the years about SC and maybe a new coach, new job, he would always say, hey, like, I'm so far removed, like, I don't know anything about that. Like, I might as well have not, it's the last thing on my mind. He sort of distanced. You see everything with Lendale. You can tell that there's sort of a resentment that Lendale has with USC, particularly with how Pete left. And he sort of talked about that in the Trojan War documentary publicly. You see kind of the anger that I think Lendale still holds, and you sort of feel that on Twitter from time to time, season over season. Reggie is suing the school right now. I mean, so it's a very awkward situation there. And then when you look at how Kiff was tarmacked, and Sark sued the school, and Orgeron was told that he's not a country club guy. Think about this, Coach. Over the last 20 years, since the start of the 2000s, which seminal figure of USC football since 2000 has actually had a positive relationship with the school? I mean, it's basically just Leinart. And then Sanchez will come from time to time, and he's working TV. It's why we're saying it's always kind of the same five guys on the sideline, right? It's like Leinart, it's Sanchez, Frosty Rucker, Keyshawn. It's the same 4 or 5 guys on the sideline. We've run out of SC guys. We've run out of SC ambassadors. And that's, I think, the problem. You talked about it a lot over the years of how John McKay, the emphasis that he had with Pete, and Pete read a lot of John Wooden stuff to sort of understand the importance of culture and core values, and then really ingratiated himself into LA. That's why we had Will Ferrell and Snoop Dogg and that whole LA culture, because he got it. Lincoln doesn't get it, but I also don't know if it's all Lincoln's fault, because I don't think we have the ambassadorship of USC like we once did. It's very sad. The key period for us since 2000, that 7-year window of Pete, think about everybody outside of Leinart doesn't really have a good relationship with the university.
And I think that's the university's fault. And I've said this in the past before. Pat Hayden, who was a SC guy, SC quarterback, understands SC culture-wise. And I think when he missed on Kiff, and then he brought Sark in, and Sark was close to turning the corner. I don't care what anybody says. He was close to turning the corner at Washington. He was close to turning the corner at SC. He just didn't have the opportunity enough. And look, they gave him time at Texas, and look what he did. Turned the corner. Sark was going to turn that corner. I'm a big Sark fan, but
Coach, I mean, in fairness, I mean, there was some off the field stuff, right? I mean, he wasn't ready.
There was off the field stuff. You're 100% right. But I mean, when you really, at the end of the day, there's a lot of off the field stuff with a lot of coaches.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
totally.
He knew how to coach football, so I'm not going to judge him on that part.
No, I'm not either. All I'm suggesting is just in the spirit of fairness of the argument, like, it wasn't like the Sark firing was out of left field, right? Like, that's what I'm saying.
No, I understand, but I also understand it. And I'm going for a tangent. He was going through a divorce and pressure winning a national championship. Maybe that's how he handled it, and I think they should have got him help before they made that decision. And legally, they had to. That's why Sark was able to sue for wrongful termination in the state of California. But he hired Sark. The Sark thing was a fiasco. And then he hired Helton. And then I don't know if he got fired or if it was a resignation. But we ended up with Todd Bone, right?
Mike Bone.
We ended up with Mike Bone. So
and then Mike Bone. I mean, you saw there was controversy there, right?
But we bring a guy in who doesn't understand the culture of USC. So then when you try and you look at these guys and you try and like, no. And they tried it with Taylor. They're like, oh, we have Taylor Mays as a coach, blah, blah, blah. Mike Williams is there also. Yep. But I legit went up there. Like, I legit played at SC. Like, I played here. Taylor knows me, blah, 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 this and that. I just want to be an analyst. No love. So what do you think I do? Call all my friends I went to SC with. Hey, you still coaching? Nah, I even went up there and tried to talk to Coach Riley, BSB analyst. What? He didn't even give you opportunity. Nope. Didn't just took my stuff and just never heard from it again. Oh, wow. That's scandalous. Hey, I heard you try to go through this. I heard you try to, and all of a sudden, everybody I played with, all of a sudden they know. Why would they go back? Why would they damn, they can't even give you a shot? Like, you have the experience. Like, they can't even, nope, didn't even do it. So they're disconnecting. I agree with you. They're turning in, you're going to hate this. Well, Thrill's going to hate this too. They're turning into UCLA. You know what I mean? It's like, give us your 4 years, you're gone. I don't know if it's NIL. I don't know if it's just the way things are, but it's now up to Fultz and up to Cohen to try to get this culture back. If we don't get this culture back, the window's going to close, and we're going to be a very average team. After my grandkids are dead.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Coach, I mean, that's sort of the interesting part here is I think it's deeper. It's deeper than the play calling. It's deeper than, the just sort of the 0-4 on the road. I mean, those are all very problematic statistics. But if you go to sort of the heart of the matter, the reason this program isn't elevating is it's lost its sense of identity and connection to Los Angeles in terms of what USC is. USC is the intersection of sports and entertainment. USC is the power football brand of Southern California. USC is sort of built a reputation of having a very tight alumni network. Those are the three things that Pete was able to tap into to sort of rebuild sort of the USC image of the 21st century. And I think Lincoln, again, and I think Lincoln has struggled with this. Because I think he's a quarterback coach and he's a cerebral guy. And I think there's a question about what type of leader of men he really is, what type of culture builder he really is. So I think there's an issue inherently, like, can he kind of get the job done as sort of a visionary leader? But B, in all fairness, I don't think he's been sort of set up for success in that way because of just the lack of USC ambassadorship that has been presented in the 21st century. When you only have 4 or 5 players that are feeling like they're connected to the school or can speak to it in a powerful way, how do you sort of recreate that? And I think that's sort of the challenge. And Coach, it sort of leads to, I know we ended the last show, we had Thrill on, and it was a really interesting conversation. And, he brought up the point of, is the comp to the Cowboys. And I thought about it, Coach, and it really seems accurate. And I know, this is probably going to upset you, but it really does feel like USC football is the college football version of the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, when you sort of think about
Raiders,
it, right?
I say Raiders, but
so here's the argument for the Cowboys. The Cowboys are basically living off of a 4-year window, right? 92, 93, 94, 95, where they won 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, and they had the triplets, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin. Those are their legends. What are we living on, over the past 40 years? What is USC football past 40 years? 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005. It was Carson's Heisman year, and then the 3 years, 03 to 05, the 34 straight, the 2 national championships, Leinart and Bush. Leinart, Bush, and Lendale White are kind of our triplets. They're sort of our Aikman, Troy Aikman. They're our Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin. And then when you sort of look at it beyond, sure, the Cowboys had a couple of years. Romo was pretty good. They had a couple of good years there. Darnold, Sanchez, Booty, kind of our Romo, kind of our Dak Prescott, a couple of years where you were pretty good. But overall, the Cowboys, last great run was 30 years ago, and our last great run was 20 years ago. And the Cowboys sort of market themselves as America's team, and USC markets itself as the West Coast team. And so, and then when you sort of take it one step further, Coach, Lincoln Riley is our Jerry Jones. When you think about Jerry Jones, you think about an individual that has unbelievable power in, that organization and, has total autonomy with those decisions. And you're sort of questioning the competence level. And you look at Lincoln Riley and look, Jerry Jones this year was very stubborn about getting the likes of a Derrick Henry, for instance, and upgrading that roster because it doesn't fit our scheme. What are the conversations we're having with Lincoln Riley right now? Does this player fit our scheme? Does that player fit our scheme? And he has total power. Lincoln Riley's running the athletic department at USC. It's not Jen Cohen. A, because he's the football coach. B, because he has a contract that we can't afford to buy out. He sort of runs the athletic department. I mean, when Bronny James was being recruited at USC basketball, he was sitting next to Lincoln Riley at Crypto.com Arena. Andy Enfield wasn't even there. I mean, that's how powerful Lincoln Riley is. in terms of USC athletics, and his stubbornness, his unwillingness to change is sort of being a detriment to this program right now. So when you think about it, Coach, whether it's the Lincoln Riley, Jerry Jones comparison, whether it's our triplets, whether it's the 4 years that we're living off of, whether it's sort of the brand of being America's team and West Coast team, Coach, we're the Cowboys. I mean, every year there's a ton of hype, there's a ton of excitement, there's a ton of juice, because that's, the Trojan family. We want to see our team succeed so badly. There's a ton of juice, but how many times, particularly since 2008, have we been let down, much the way the Cowboys have been let down? So I think the analogy is pretty spot on, Coach.
All right, then Oregon's the 49ers. How's that sound?
Okay, fair. Yeah. I think that's pretty spot on, too. Yeah. I think Oregon is the 49ers. I think that's really good.
No, but, I mean, so humility is a great thing to have, right? What made Pete so good? And a lot of people, I don't think a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but if you really understand Pete was good because he got fired. And then Pete studied John Wooden, right? And Pete happened to be at the right volleyball game at the right time. And he knew, like, this is his opportunity. He's not going to lose that opportunity. And he did everything he could in his power to learn from his mistakes and become a better person. And we'll use all the SC coaches for the former SC coaches, right? Lane Kiffin, fired from the Raiders, fired from SC.
Left Tennessee, right?
He left Tennessee to go to. I was about to say fired from Tennessee, but so I'm not going to count Tennessee. After he got fired from SC, he was in UW and he went to coaches rehab. That's when he went to
with Saban, and then he got Florida Atlantic, and then back to Ole Miss.
Job. That's right. And then he went back to Ole Miss, but he got fired. Same with Sark. Fired from SC, had to go to coaches rehab. Practically got fired from the Falcons. It was one of those lateral fires, like, hey, like, we're gonna let this guy go. You know what I mean? But he had to go through that. Lincoln at Oklahoma. I was successful at Oklahoma. I have Heisman Trophy winners. I've been to the college football playoff. Now I'm at SC, one of the highest resources school on the West Coast. Whatever they need, they could get, blah, blah, blah. It's a great opportunity. But the problem is he's never hurt before. You know what I mean? Like, he's never hurt. He's never had a chance to sit down and reflect and say, man, where did I go wrong? What did I do wrong? He's at the point now to where he's like, oh, it's okay. I could go and say, well, we're doing 99% of the other stuff we're doing, right? Hey, but you guys are just on that. It's just one play. You can't say it's just one play, because now I'm going to say, oh, we just can't let that one play happen. We can't let that one play happen. It turns into low-key 13 plays. But he's never had to, like, really, like, go through, like, man, what happened if I change this? What happened if I change this? What happened? Matt, man, I'm going to just tell you this. I sit and think sometimes, like, I'll give you a good example. So I take the train now also to work because I don't want to drive 2 hours to get home. Great commute. It's easy. Station's a mile from my house. But when I'm on the train, like, I'm digging deep into Pete. I'm digging deep into Nick Saban. I'm digging deep into Kirby Smart. Like, I'm looking at YouTube films and I'm like looking up stuff, and I'm texting all my friends who are still in the league, throwing information. I got a little pad where I'm drawing up plays and trying to figure this out, figure that out. And the reason why is because I've been fired. But if I get that opportunity again, I want to be prepared for that opportunity to make sure that I've never be put in that situation again, because now I got a family. I got a mouth to feed. I don't want to be unemployed. And I think every coach needs to go through that. They do. Nick Saban got fired. You know what I mean? Like every coach needs to go through that. So I don't think he's never had that. So he doesn't really have that fire. He kind of has the complacency and the entitlement. And complacency and entitlement does not make you successful. Hunger and humility makes you as successful as you possibly can be. And all the examples I gave you, statistically, go look at them. Lane Kiffin's a great coach now. Sark is a good coach now. Nick Saban, we know what Nick Saban did. Pete, while Pete was in Seattle, Pete is probably going to go to the Hall of Fame in college and in the pro football Hall of Fame.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, all those things, because they've been through fire before, and they were humble and they were hungry. And I think that's what helps them out.
No, Coach, I think that it's so deeply insightful what you just said. And it feels like in his comments, the post-game pressers, Lincoln feels a little bit kind of like a trust fund baby, in a sense, because he was the chosen one. He was sort of gifted, with the Leach coaching tree, fast track, accelerated with East Carolina. He was identified. It's kind of like when you're working at a big company, coach, and it's sort of the succession planning, and you've kind of been identified to be, the next executive or the next vice president, and you're sort of on the fast track. That's sort of what Lincoln was at OU, right? As the OC, and then got the keys to the kingdom at a very young age, had a lot of success very early, and then he's the one who chose to leave OU for USC, right? So he thought it was sort of a step up even from there. So he's constantly sort of been told how great he is, how brilliant he is, and he's always gotten the next job off of that. And so you even felt it in some of the things he was saying in the press conference. He's like, I'm not used to this. I'm not used to losing and all of that. He's lost right now. I mean, you can sort of totally sense it. And I think he thinks that, because he's so intelligent that he can just, fix this with the one play away. To me, almost feels like a sort of a psychological exercise that he's having with himself of saying, this is a quick fix. I can think my way out of this because I've been told how brilliant and intelligent I am. So I'm going to just sort of cerebrally fix this. And it's deeper than that. When you have lost 5 games the way they have, these one-score games, when you finish the year,
it's more than 5. It's more than 5. Go back to last year. It's more than 5.
Absolutely. He's 12-12, coach, in his last 24 games. He's 6-10 in his last 16 games. I mean, I talked about this last week. Coach, he's got to go 5-2 to get tarmacked. I mean, Kiffin was 28-15. He's 23-13. Kiffin was 28-15 at SC with sanctions, with scholarship reductions, with basically sort of a death penalty situation for 2 years, bowl ban. Then he went 28-15, and that was deemed not good enough. And now here's this golden boy, who's supposed to be the guru, the quarterback guru, $10 million a year. We're going to be the mecca of college football. I'm going to sort of be the face. We got to get our situation all put together. He's 23-13. He's got to go 5-2 over his next 7 just to match Kiffin's record. Everyone talks about the Helton, Lincoln comparison. Fair, rightfully so. To me, the more apt comparison is, he's got to go 5-2 to get to the level of the guy who got tarmacked. I mean, and so I think that's where I want to see a more humble Lincoln Riley moving forward. I thought that's what we were going to get after last year's 8-5. I thought that was going to humble him. And, for a while there, coach, in the offseason, it looked like he was sort of changing some things, but it just feels like, a leopard doesn't change his spots. He sort of reverted back. You sort of become who you always were. And I think until Lincoln Riley demonstrates a humility and, a willingness to seek out help and counsel, to sort of be, have some of the blind spots, I think that it's going to be a challenge moving forward. Coach, to that effect, before I hand it back over to you, think about his staff also. I mean, it's not like Lynn has been fired either. Lynn has sort of been promoted up. Entz hasn't been fired either. Entz has been promoted up. So, for as brilliant as those guys are, Eric Henderson hasn't been fired. He's been sort of promoted up. All very brilliant young minds in their respective positions, certainly, and on their respective sides of the ball. But it extends even beyond Lincoln. None of those guys have actually really faced true adversity. And so, how they're going to respond moving forward, and the manner and the ethics and the camaraderie and, the persona that they show and how they respond moving forward, I think is going to determine what USC football looks like over the next 2 or 3 years, more so than any individual recruit or any individual get during that period of time.
If you're a recruiter, you watch this, I will come to SC because eventually they're going to fire Lincoln Riley and they're going to hire Barry Odom. And Barry Odom is going to turn this thing around. There's so many names out there right now of guys who have been fired, or just dudes like Connetti's been fired. He's just a dog. Like, that's the type of guy we need. And he understands. He built the culture. Here's a great example of building a culture from Connetty. He was like, I don't want any of these Indiana players. I'm going to go bring my guys in. I'm going to build my locker room, and they know what type of locker room I want. And look at them. Now they're undefeated. Like, these things matter. I will say this, though, just a different subject. Maybe 2019, maybe 2018, 2019. It was 2019. It was 2019 because that's when I got the first guy. I went there before. I went to an NFL NCAA like coaches clinic. It's supposed to be like a networking thing, and you only invite only. They had this guy come in, and he spoke to us, and he said, it wasn't Dave Weinstead because Dave Weinstead was the one that said if you fire your friends, that's how you get fired. And I have a bunch of people who. I got fired for hiring my friends and things like that. But this guy said, when you hire people you're too comfortable with, that's when it gets dangerous. He was like, and sometimes it might not even be your friend. It might just be the person happy to have the job. So they're always going to tell you yes. It might be the person who's afraid to lose their job. So they're always going to tell you yes. The person who tells you the truth and challenges you, that's your best guy on your staff. He was like, you want to know why? Because he's trying to cover up your blind spots. He's trying to show you where you're weak. And you get coaches who take that as a threat, and you get coaches, but that guy who walks in and say, hey, this ain't right. We shouldn't do this. That guy's trying to protect your blind spots. I don't think Kiffin's blind spots are covered up. I think he has people.
You mean Lincoln's?
Sorry, Lincoln, yeah. Lincoln, his blind spots aren't covered up, and I think he has people, which is weird because Henderson doesn't have to be there, but I think they're kind of like, yeah, coach, whatever you want. Yeah, coach, whatever you want. And I think Lincoln likes that. I don't know. This is only my opinion, but I think he likes that because I think when you want to be the smartest man in the room, you hate to be challenging with your intelligence.
Yep.
You get what I'm saying? Like, and it's okay. Somebody's challenging your intelligence is only going to make you smarter. It gives you new outlook on things and understands where people comes from. As long as it's an intelligent conversation, it's not insulting, right? We can have a debate and then we can say, you know what? I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you either. But I could walk away and be like, I get where he's coming from, but I don't agree with it. But I get it. Like, I understand a different viewpoint. And that way you learn how to, especially with football, you get on the board like, this is how I would do it. Nope, this is how I would do it. And then you're like, I like that, but I would do it this way. Now you just learned something new. I don't think Riley is a guy that likes to be challenged mentally because the big media has told him how smart he was. So I think he's getting a lot of yeses. And when you get a lot of yeses, you end up 4 and 5 and 1 and 2 in the 2 and 6 in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And you're going to lose. You have to.
No, Coach, I mean, it's a really good point. And obviously we don't know this to be true or a fact. It's just sort of, opinion. Absolutely. It's just what we're sort of observing. And I think two things lend a lot of credence to what you're saying. One is when you keep losing the exact same way, over and over again, that sort of really lends itself to you're probably not having enough healthy debate because you're kind of doing the same thing over and over again. So you're not getting that pushback. Either you're not getting that pushback because the folks around you don't feel psychologically safe enough or empowered enough to push back, or they are pushing back and you're just squashing it and you're just sort of it's business as usual. So that is a telltale sign when you keep losing the same way moving forward. That's sort of a signal that you could be having a problem there, Coach. And I think, again, it sort of goes back to, we thought we were going to turn the corner here. Everything that he said was, 8-5, he took it so personally. He was going to kind of come back a changed individual, and we haven't seen it. And to sort of bring it back full circle, Coach, maybe Feinbaum saw something, that no one else did, of saying, hey, he's saying this, but he hasn't actually changed his behavior, perhaps. And I think that's why he felt so confident that things wouldn't be what they were.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, he has to figure it out, or we're just in a bad relationship. You know what this is like? This is the best way I can do it. I'll let you wrap it up with your final thoughts. This is like two people being married and they don't want a divorce until the kids are 18.
Right. Exactly. No, it's true. I mean, it's true. It's true. I mean, I think, to be fair, and again, I'll be very steadfast there. I'm giving him until next year. I'm giving him the fourth year because it's fair. But 4 years is a credible amount of body of work to say, do you have this under control or do you not? And right now, where this is headed, it doesn't seem likely, but he has until the 4 years to that point. And I think the other piece, Coach, I'll say is, to sort of the pushback argument, like, think about, this is sort of what made Saban the GOAT, right? Like, remember when Kiff became Saban's offensive coordinator, and it was like, Kiffin is going to become Saban's offensive coordinator? Like, think about how Saban won the next 3 titles at Alabama. Like, his first 3 rings, at Alabama were completely different than the last 3, right? Like, the first 3 was all ground and pound, great defense, all of that. And then the last 3 was when he had, the Tua offense and Devonta Smith and all of these explosive teams and, Najee Harris and all of these sort of huge playmakers and Waddle and, the list goes on and Judy and so on and so forth, and he brought in guys. I mean, and, the famous sort of ass chewings that remember Kiffin would get from Saban and the friction that was there. But Saban knew that he needed to sort of evolve with college football, and he brought in somebody very different from him. And, that shows a tremendous amount of wisdom. So we'll see how it shakes out with Lincoln. I think there's some soul searching that he's going to have to do because this is at best going to be a second consecutive 8-5 season. And if they lose one more game, it's going to be worse than 8-5 than last year. So, hopefully there's some soul searching here through some individual inspection, but also hopefully Jen Cohen and Caruso and others can sort of help in terms of creating some SC ambassadorship to be able to build, to rebuild that culture again.
Hey, Ricky C, we need 200. We need 200 million. We're going to put 100 in a high interest account, and then we're going to use the other 100 to hire a new coach, and then we'll take the earnings from the high interest account from the 100 million to pay off Lincoln Riley. But we're going to keep money in there. That's how, I should be an athletic director. That's how you should, no, seriously though, but that's definitely how you should keep money for coaches so you don't have to worry about fundraising. Have it in a high interest account, the coach's account. That's what you call it. And just use the interest like, oh, we need a buyout. Well, we got enough in there. Bam, there we go. Here's your
the
buyout.
Problem, though, I think it's great, Coach. The problem is, interest, to withdraw $80 million. In interest, you're talking about an account that needs to be over $1 billion, So
Ricky got it. Ricky got it.
Ricky got it. I don't know if Ricky's going to be giving it all, though. Ricky's got it, but I don't know if he loves SC that much.
The only thing about Ricky having it is you don't know if he's going to Karen Bass and getting it out of the city funds. That's the thing with Ricky. Nah, man, we put a good one together today, man. We'll make it, I think. When we'll make it, onward. When we'll make it, I don't know, but we'll definitely make it.
Coach, the one thing we'll say is, obviously we're in a bye, so there'll be kind of more holistic conversations this week before we get ready for the prep with Nebraska moving forward. But, the clock is ticking, and obviously this year is what it is, but I've always maintained 2025 is the year that you have to kind of get it turned around. It's the 20-year anniversary of Leinart and Bush. It's the 17-year anniversary of the Sanchez, Cushing, Mauluga, Rivers team, which is the age of these recruits. You got to be able to get it. If you can't get it turned around by next year, it's going to be tough. If you let go of the rope next year, especially with more going into from a resources perspective with NIL and all of these other things, it's an uphill battle.
It's 17 years.
Oh, wait. Next year's 25.
That makes me feel old, man.
Oh, wait, bro. Oh, wait, man. Yeah. Oh, wait.
God dang.
These recruits are 17 years old. They weren't even born, Coach. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is, we talk so much about the 11 national titles and the 8 Heismans, and it's all true. And we're a blue blood, and we talk about all the first-round picks. But, Coach, a little bit of math here. The last title of the Makai era that John Robinson won, right, because he was the successor to Makai, was 78. Okay, so 78, we talk about next year. That's 47 years. So, you're probably walking into let's just roughly say a recruit is 17 years old. His mom or dad is 47 years old, right? They were 30 when they had just rough numbers. That's a reasonable number. What we're saying is to a recruit, 9 of our 11 national championships happened before your parents were born, not even before you were born. Okay. And then the last 2 were before you were born. So, we can have all the 11 national championships we want, Coach. I mean, even me. I mean, 9 of the 11 was before I was born. I don't really have like a connection to 9 of the 11. As an SC guy, you pay the respect. You're very proud that it's there, but it's sort of a museum piece. I don't have any memories of any of those national championships. What I have is of 02 to 05, I mean, those seasons when I was a student and beyond. So it's going to be very hard to sell, all of these great accolades when it's so far removed, where in Alabama and a Georgia and an LSU, even a Florida State, even Auburn. I mean,
State,
all of these schools can say, Ohio State, of course, Michigan, of course, all of these schools can say, look, we've been the face of the sport much more recently than USC has. And so that's why we are a blue blood. We're a huge brand. I get all of that. But there comes a time where you can no longer just live off of brand. And I believe we're getting perilously close to that point where the brand is not going to matter as much as we think it is.
I'm going to tell you this before we wrap it up. There's still hope. As long as it took Miami. Miami has been down longer than us.
Totally. Yes.
So there's still hope. I'm not giving up.
No. There's nothing to give up on. No, nothing to give up on in any way, shape, or form.
We just
all I'm suggesting, and what I've been suggesting for the better part of a year, is we have to operate with urgency. You have to operate with urgency because you're getting to a point where, you're getting one generation removed from the last national title and 2 generations removed from all the other national titles. So we're not giving up by any stretch of the imagination. We're upward and onward. We hope that we're going to get this thing turned around, but the time is now. The urgency is now.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you, man. We threw it together another good one. We get to do it on Thursday where our boy Ryan will have the tripod here. Bye week, so we don't have to talk about Pat Mahomes III.
Pat Mahomes III got worked by UCLA. Okay, and we'll talk about that, next week in the game preview.
Yeah, good deal. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate all your fans. It's the Bet Online Detroit podcast. Don't forget to go to betonline.ag. Get all your local odds and up-to-date stats. Bet Online, where the game starts. Also, don't forget to go to Underdog Fantasy, underdogfantasy.com. Put in promo code USCLAFB, and we'll give you a $100 match. If you like a bunch of good stories, like my man Madman has written a bunch of good stories. Ryan's also written a bunch of good stories. Go to LAFBnetwork.com. We got Trojans, Rams, Chargers, and the other team across town who's actually doing it pretty well right now. I'll give him that. We also have to guess. We got our man Will the Thrill on. We're getting into Dodgers. We're getting into some UCLA basketball. And a little bit of Laker basketball. All that's on LAFBnetwork.com. And don't forget fantasy. Almer Desai and Tad Desai get you up all your latest fantasy news. Man, I appreciate you. You guys know how it goes. Live free, fight on.